Hello everyone, I'm Dio and this is Motorsport with Dio. We are here today to discuss about mainly Formula 1. We will be covering other things in our channel in the future, but this is the Formula 1 week here. This is the new season and actually we are excited to watch the race next week. So what we understood from the testing, how did it go and what we can get as kind of ideas of how the season will go. Of course, everything we're gonna say we have to take with a grain of salt because we know that some teams can sandbag, we know that some teams may hold some kind of performance or some teams maybe even show more performance if they run lower fuel. We don't know. We know for sure on Friday when it's going to be the qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now, let's see what we saw. Why this season is important? It's important because this is the transitional phase between the current regulations and 2026 regulations. Now, this is the season that will define also next season, because next season teams will be more concentrated on the 2026 regulations. So whatever car they choose to develop this year, it will probably carry on for next year as well, as we don't have many changes in the regulations planned. What are the main reasons for that? The main reasons for that is, of course, teams will try to perfect their designs. This is what we saw from Ferrari. They actually made some kind of a new car, but they followed some of the designs they had on the previous car that for them was working well. So we can say that they kind of created a new car, but at the same time tried to base on things that used to work in the past. Mercedes and Red Bull really went to a completely new design, completely new concept for Red Bull. It's kind of extreme because they had the most dominant car in the history of Formula 1 last year, but this year they seem to completely flip the script and actually go to a different direction that, according to Adrian Newey, is the good direction to go. Now, of course, we will see that on track, but the results are promising. Now, for Mercedes, we will go into that later, but they seem to have some question marks, but they seem to have made steps forward. Let's say what there are overall remarks of the testing. The testing was good. Most of the time we had some gremlins with the drain covers being broken. Now, this happened because these cars are heavy. These cars generate a lot of downforce from the flow. So drain covers, are not designed to sustain forces like this. So actually what we get is pretty much new problems that we probably have in other tracks as well. We had this last year in Vegas, if you remember what Carlos Sainz had to endure because of that. But the testing was smooth. Most of the teams didn't have any problems in terms of reliability. That's good news. That's also something we expect because we know that the engine regulations are frozen and the engines are homologated. The teams can only improve the engines for reliability reasons. So we know that actually the engines are supposed to run well. Now, we had some issues with Williams mainly. One issue was that I think that they had no more fuel and the other one was the gearbox. But anyway, those were small issues that didn't hinder them from actually doing a very good job in testing according to James Vowles' Williams F1 trim principle. What is more, we saw teams trying to work more on tire management than performance. Now, this was a big issue last year because we saw that teams that were very fast in qualifying trim, they were not so fast in race trim. That was the case for Ferrari, that was the case for teams like Haas. So they concentrated a lot on long runs and tire management and what are the arcs and the phases of their tire degradation. We have some news on that and we're gonna share it soon, but what we can know is that most of the team seems to have made progress on that front. Let's see what each team did and what we understand from each team. Now, of course, we start from the champions, Red Bull. They seem to have completely flipped their script and have a completely new concept, but they seem to pick up where they left it last year, meaning that they seem very strong, everything seemed working very well, didn't have any problems. It seems that the car has been very stable. In the beginning, I think the first day we had Max struggling a bit with tires, so it seems to be quite low grip in this track. It was the track was dirty, so we can actually not base our assumptions there, but actually what we can say is that most of the cases the car seems to be running well. Now, Max was very happy, the engineering team was very happy, Perez was very happy. Everyone seems to understand that the new design actually behaves like they would like to behave. We think that the Red Bull has keeping their cards close to their chest because they didn't do any kind of low fuel runs, it seems, or if they did, they didn't kind of send it, they just went very safe with that. Red Bull has still the upper hand, as it seems. Of course, we will see that next week, but it seems that Red Bull is really the team to beat this year as well. Now, some rumors around the paddock say that Red Bull have 1 second difference from the other teams in race stream. Now, we think that this is quite, let's say, exaggerated, but we cannot say if it's true or not, because we will see that during the Bahrain GP. Now, let's go to Mercedes. Mercedes did a great job redesigning their cars. Now, what they changed, they say that they changed the floor, they changed the back end suspension, they of course changed the front end nose. Much talk has been done around how they managed to find a loophole on the regulations and do this very clever solution about having a force flap on the front end nose. We cannot know for sure whether the car is better than Red Bull, but we can see that the driver seems to be more happy than they were last year. Again, we suspect that Mercedes did high fuel runs, and we think that they have more performance than that they show. Also, they say that in race stream they kind of are behind Red Bull, but they are a clear second. So we can understand that. I think Mercedes are going to the right direction actually, but of course it's going to be a very complicated year because, as we know, Lewis Hamilton is going to Ferrari, so we will see the dynamics between the two drivers if the actual car turns out to be a competitor to Red Bull. Now, Ferrari is always an important team because it's the most historical team. This is the first car that Fred Vasseur has overseen in its entirety. It's very interesting because last year they didn't have a bad car per se. They just had a car that was very good in qualifying trim but very bad in race stream, at least on the first half of the year. Now the second half of the year they seem to find solutions to their problems, and they said that okay, we have to go to a new direction. Now bizarrely, Ferrari is the only team along with Haas that uses the same parts as Ferrari, that they didn't change their back suspension architecture to follow what Red Bull did. They said that they have good reasons not to do that and they want to concentrate on other parts of the car. This is, I think, something we will see if they were right or not on the track. Enrico Cardile, the chief technical director of Ferrari, said that the suspension is not something that it's the most important part of the car for them. We have to take the word for it. Of course, we will see that on track. Ferrari seems to have been on top of their tire degradation issues that they had last year. It seems that the race pace is better than last year. It seems that tires are behaving better. In qualifying, they seem to be behind Red Bull, but in race stream, they seem to be close to Mercedes on third place. We have to see whether this is true, and we have to see whether Ferrari did not hold back any performance, of course. But we can say that things are looking better than last year for the Scuderia Ferrari. Now McLaren. McLaren were very strong in the second half of last year, and we expect them to be strong also this year. But what we can say, I mean, on the testing, they didn't seem to be 100% happy with everything. Lando said something along the lines that maybe they're behind Mercedes and Ferrari. I struggle to believe that because I think that the progress they made last year was significant and they seem to be the best team after Red Bull according to results. So for me, I will wait for the race in Bahrain on Friday and Saturday to understand if really this is the case. I will be very surprised because for me, McLaren have been on top of their issues since last year. This is the first car that has been fully developed in McLaren's new wind tunnel. So this is very interesting to see how the team can actually continue development along the year and how they can improve. Now let's go to Alpine. Alpine is big question mark. We understand that Alpine has had some concerns about their engine. This is where they try to concentrate their efforts to make their engine more reliable. It seems that the engine has been more reliable, but then rumors around the paddock say that actually Alpine, we shouldn't be surprised if they are 9th or 10th. And now this is a bit surprising given the fact that it is a team that has many resources. It is a team that historically has been going midfield to front of the field. In some cases have been champions. Last time they won the championship was with Fernando Alonso in 2006. So to my eyes, I wouldn't believe that this team can actually be dead last. They are the only team running Renault engines, and they are the only team that actually seem to be a bit confused about their concept. So we have to understand during the Grand Prix of Bahrain if that's really the problem. We have to also keep in mind that this is a very important year for Esteban Ocon because it's the last year of his contract, so he will be searching for big performance. We should not also forget that Mercedes has a position open because Lewis Hamilton goes to Ferrari. Let's go to Aston Martin. Aston Martin was the big surprise of last year. In the first half, they had a very strong car. They were almost every race, they had podiums. We also kind of thought that maybe Fernando Alonso would get a win. And then we also thought that then might be in the championship run. Okay, this didn't happen because in the second part of the year, they seemed to drop the ball on their development. Now the car did not improve. Actually, it seemed that they went the wrong direction. They said before the end of last year that they understood what went wrong and they fixed it. The last 3 or 4 Grand Prix of last year, they really had a good performance. So we expect them this year to be right in the mix of the midfield, let's say front end of the midfield, battling out with McLaren, with Mercedes and with Ferrari. We cannot know exactly what the performance will be because everybody keeps, as we say, and I repeat myself, but this is true, we actually don't know exactly what are the fuel loads that they were using, what were the settings, if they were going fast, but we can see that Fernando seems to be happy with the car. Lance seemed to be happy with the car, so we can expect something very close to last season, but time will tell. Now, the car, it seems that it's very close to what Red Bull did last year, and that's good and bad. It's good because most of the teams have been going this way, but it's also bad because Red Bull itself abandoned this. So we have to understand whether this car will actually do the job for them and they will actually have a win this year. I really hope they will because I would really like to see Fernando winning after 11 years. Let's go to RB. Now, Racing Bulls or RB are the second team of Red Bull. They have a rebranding this year. They're running Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo, actually using the last year's Red Bull car, RB19, with some extra modifications following some good concepts that floated around the championship last year. It seems that the car works well. Yuki and Daniel had some good laps and made good times. It's a big season for them because they try to change the direction, going to a more focused direction towards like the midfield, and they seem to want more results. Having a good car like the clone of RB19 is something that maybe, as we have seen in the past, for example, last example was the pink Mercedes of Racing Point in 2020, that can be good for the season, but that could be also a bit of a problem in the course of the season if the team cannot support really their development and they cannot catch up to any kind of development the other teams will do. I think that this season will be better than the last one, but as I said, we don't know. Let's go to Williams. Now, Williams, they were the teams that I think they had the most problems, at least visible problems, during testing. They had 2 times that the car had to stop during testing. They seem to have a car that is better than last year in terms of how it behaves to the wind and slow and medium speed corners. Last year, the car was very good in tracks like Monza or like Las Vegas, where they could make use of their high speed. Now this year, we would expect a car that should behave better in all tracks. That actually was what we understood from James Vowles and Alex Albon. But of course, they also have taken some risks in their design, trying to really make the best of what they have. And it seems that they are going to the right direction. I'm really excited for Williams. I really hope that this year they will even be able maybe to get a podium. I think they're making a very good job. Last year, in the second half of the year, they really developed the car well. So I really think that this year will be the year that Williams will kind of go towards midfield. Let's go to Alfa Romeo or Sauber, or now of course Stake. They seem to follow a similar approach to their last year's car, with some improvements that all the teams did to look more like the RB19. The car seems to be fine. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of the livery, but then, you know, that's just my opinion. I think that the car is fine. I think that the drivers were kind of happy. I don't know where to actually put them. I think they will be around 8th or 9th overall. I'm not really sure. I would really like to be surprised. I really like Valtteri. I think he's a good driver. Let's see how this will go. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were pretty much where they were last year. We should not forget that Sauber playing the long game since they have been acquired by Audi, and their big target is to have a car ready by 2026. So all those years are quite transitional years. They try to put in place the best team to build their engines and to build their cars. The driver market will be very interesting for them. There are some rumors about Carlos Sainz going about, so we may see news about this team along the year. Let's go to Haas. Now Haas, as we know, they have, let's say, the biggest changes because of course they no longer have Gunther Steiner as their team principal. So that kind of shifts the philosophy of the team towards a more, let's say, data-driven approach, because they have the new team principal is an engineer, is data-driven, is somebody very close to, let's say, James Vowles than Gunther Steiner. We have to understand that Haas is a team with the lowest budget in the championship, so we cannot expect miracles. They have very experienced drivers in Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg. They seem to have had some good runs. Listening to Kevin Magnussen, I don't feel that he's really happy with everything. I really feel that he thinks that they have made progress with the balance or with the tire degradation, but it doesn't seem to be what he would like to see with this year's car. Now, we have to see how this will unfold during the season. I think Haas will have a very, very tough year ahead, because every team around them seem to have made progress. Racing Bulls, they seem to have, a very strong car. Williams as well. Even Stake, they seem to step up a bit. I don't see that from Haas, and I think that maybe they will put even in question how the team operates. I really hope that in the year they will be able to develop their car. That was a very hard thing to do in previous years. They were very good in the first half of the season, and then the second half of the season they couldn't keep up with the developments of the other teams. So I don't see Haas anywhere else than the last place, but I would really like to be surprised along the season. That is pretty much from Formula One. I think this week testing is always kind of frustrating because you see action but you don't really know what's going to happen. Hopefully on Thursday the real season begins. We have the free practice, and then on Friday we have the qualifying, and on Sunday we have the race. That's amazing that the new season starts so early. We have a 24 race marathon that is really taxing for, of course, the teams and the drivers, but it's very good for us fans because we get to watch our favorite sport more often than before. I'm really happy that you took the time to watch this video. If you like this video, like and subscribe for more. We're planning to have one video reviewing the race or the news if there is no race. We have planned some things to do in the future around F1 and data. Stay tuned.